That's the new coach of the New York Giants. He's not a household name. In fact, if you put the words Joe and Judge into Google search yesterday afternoon, this guy came up. It's Judge Joe Brown. How are you doing, Your Honor?
Don't play with him.
That all changes now, though, because we've got a new Joe Judge, and the new coach of the Giants has quite an amazing story. He was a star high school player at Lansdale Catholic in the Philly suburbs, but when he got recruited to play in the SEC, he made a major, albeit rare move from Pennsylvania to Starkville, Mississippi. I don't know if there's direct flights there. Okay. Philadelphia to Starkville, where he goes to Mississippi State, and there he is. Was a backup quarterback, never played a game at quarterback, but instead focused on special teams. He was the punt protector, he was the team's holder on kicks, and he lettered his final 3 years for Mississippi State, including a huge upset over Florida his last season. He graduates, he stays there for 3 more years to be a grad assistant with the Bulldogs, but when those days ended, he was in a bit of a bind. This is when his life gets really interesting. While still dreaming of being a football coach, Judge had to make ends meet, so he put his degree to use. And guys, Joe Judge was a kindergarten physical education teacher at West Point Elementary School in West Point, Mississippi. Yes, the new coach of the New York Giants was quite recently a kindergarten teacher only a little more than a decade ago. But his dream never died. While he was teaching,
not a tumor.
His next gig wasn't exactly Notre Dame or Penn State, but it was a gig nonetheless, and he made the most of it. In 2008, Joe Judge signed on to be the linebackers coach at Division III Birmingham Southern. All right, so take all this in. He's a kindergarten teacher. Birmingham Southern calls and says, we can give you the linebackers coach. I was like, I'm in. Where am I going? Birmingham Southern.
Okay.
And then the phone rang with the call that would change his life. Nick Saban. Nick Saban, Alabama, says, hey, I saw what you've done. I've gotten great recommendations. Come on board. And he did. And he learned instantly from arguably the greatest college football coach of all time. Year after year, Joe Judge got elevated on the coaching staff and got better and better, and so did the Alabama program. And in 2012, Bill Belichick came calling next. This guy calls, you answer. And after a year of being the assistant special teams coach for Belichick, Joe Judge got the promotion and was announced as the special teams coach of the New England Patriots.
Okay.
And then you know what happens. The New England Patriots instantly become a top 5 unit every single year on special teams, blocking punts, returning punts, running trick plays. And when the Patriots beat the Rams in Super Bowl 53 and hoisted that Lombardi in Atlanta, Joe Judge was right in the thick of it, enjoying it. And he looked at his resume and said, 12 years ago, I was a kindergarten teacher. I have just won my 5th championship ring in 10 years. It's a cool story. 38 years old, a Philly kid who took a monster leap to go to Starkville, Mississippi to play college football, does some kindergarten teaching, does some D3 coaching, and he learned everything from the masters, Saban and Belichick. It is as interesting a resume as you'll find. And for Giants fans, they're hoping this guy is the team's next great coach, and there for quite a while. Guys, Joe Judge, let's welcome to our city, the Big Apple.
Joe Judge.
Hey, Joe. Well done, Strags. A lot of people didn't know who he was, so that was well done.
Thank you. What do you make of the hire?
I'm thinking of what Nate's saying about players seeing special teams coach, but then I look at it a bit of a different way. It's a guy who knows everybody on the field. He deals with all 53.
Yeah, players don't look at it like that. No, because we're here, players we're very ego-driven.
Yes.
So, we feel like if you're coming in to coach us, we're the cream of the crop. What do people tell us all the time? You're the top 1%. So we expect the head coach to be the cream of the crop, the best coach ever. And it's never really like that. It's just a misconception. So doing something like that, like Strags, I guarantee there's players on the Giants that will watch this or are watching it right now. They're like, wow. Okay, now their approach is like, my guard is down all of a sudden. Let me walk into this room expecting him to teach me something because he's not just your run-of-the-mill special teams coach.
Yeah, I was in Cleveland playing for the Browns going into my second year. They fired Chris Palmer. They hired Butch Davis. Sometimes you can know too much about the coach coming in, and all of a sudden reputations preceded Butch Davis. And before he even got there, people were already talking about, oh, my gosh, this and that, and telling stories. So sometimes it can work against coaches to have a reputation and to have a preface. But I found myself, like a lot of people, saying, who is Joe Judge? And I'm watching this playoff game, Titans versus Patriots. And every time they show Bill Belichick on the sideline, and it's a game situation, important call. He's talking to somebody, and I keep saying to myself, man, who is that guy that's talking to Bill, and he's telling Bill what to do? I mean, he's giving the ref an earful right here. Like, this guy with the headset on, I'm like, who is that guy? Like, is that a former player? Like, I don't know. He looks familiar. I don't know. Maybe just some guy named Joe. I don't know. It turns out that's Joe Judge. So when the game is on the line, Bill is over there talking to Joe at the end of the half. What are we going to do? Are we going for it right here? And he's leaning on Joe Judge. So he definitely has Bill's ear. He had Nick Saban's ear. Came refer to him. But you talked about building something. How fitting now that that story about him building a playground. Guess what? He might need to build a playground at the Giants facility because he's got a bunch of kids in that locker room. I mean, this is a young team and a lot of young players. And how fitting that he could be playing kindergarten cop, as you said.
Or maybe he needs to build a doghouse because he needs to turn these young pups into big dogs.
Okay, yeah. Get some toys out there.
I think there needs to be some fight for your Giants.
I think the one thing that I came away from the Giants building yesterday, learning about Joe Judge and what he's going to bring, this offense is going to be centered around Saquon Barkley. I know everybody's infatuated with the young quarterbacks and the RPOs and shotgun, and we're doing all this stuff. I think the Giants are a little miffed.
Yeah.
That last season, Saquon Barkley obviously was hurt and he was injured, but the fact that there were times for him to take over a game and it didn't happen. I think the Philly game on Monday Night Football, they go into the halftime with a 14-point lead, and he does not take over the game in the second half. I think there was a disconnect there.
Yeah.
I think that Joe Judge, part of his plan is, look, when I was in Alabama, guess what? We ran the rock. It may have been with 2 or 3 guys, but we pounded the rock. The Patriots, they haven't done it as much this year, but they've always had a good run game. They've always had the ability to turn it on and off whenever they needed to. I think the Giants will have that.
I'm always curious to see how somebody from the Belichick coaching tree handles the media, especially in a market like this. That goes hand in hand with the job if you're going to coach either team in New York City. So the fact that he's been with Bill Belichick at his hip since 2012, we'll
Saban
see how
as well.
yeah, but we'll see how that works because you do see it one way. Flores down in Miami doesn't say much. When he does, he means it. Matt Patricia in his first year in front of the cameras on his own, much more buttoned up. Second year, we sort of saw him loosen up. So it'll be always interesting as a fan and as somebody on this show that listens to those press conferences and that fan base here in New York that can be vicious, how he handles that because he's coming in with a lot of experience on how to shut that down.
This hire feels a lot like the Daniel Jones draft pick, doesn't it? Everybody's saying, what's going on? Are you kidding me? What's going on? They're questioning all of it.
Even
and then
Saquon.
all of a sudden, no, Daniel Jones, pick Saquon too.
Hey Giants fans, Saquon Barkley here. You want to see more videos? Subscribe below.